Okay.
These are small numbers, but it helps you.
Alrighty. So, let us
biggest number in 60. So this is the smallest number.
start.
We've already subtracted it.
Alright, let's do
And then we're
one,
gonna add
two more, okay? And then I want to see you guys.
I'm opening your pacing calendar.
Okay.
Just because I always like to start with just making sure that you are where you want to be, and if there's any questions around that, let's get those out of the way. I know we talked about it yesterday, but is there anything that needs to be moved? We're good. You got your vocab. You need one more vocab word.
Oh, I put it in there. All right.
Maybe I need to update this. Refresh. Let's see what happens. It says need one more.
That's from the week after.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, but that's for the week of the 9th.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying you need one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I put one for next week.
Yeah, no. We're just trying to like keep
just be
pushing the
keep
work
pushing.
out so
Okay,
that you
I'll just add
don't
another one.
lose track. And because, you know, you can always work on vocabulary over the weekend in your copious free time. Or get Mr. Neva to do it. And at least if you guys know what the words are, it's easier to figure that out. Part of, as I said, part of one of the things I want to do is have you collaborate on that so that nobody is overburdened with the vocabulary. And so if we can figure that out, if the words are there, it's easier to say, okay, I'm going to do the one session, you do the 2A. And
I think yesterday we had finally got to talk, and I think that's how we're gonna split it up.
Okay.
Where similar to Hammy and Lakata, because I know that they were talking about if one person does it, we won't have time to review it for our IPP meeting. So he'll always do Monday, Tuesday. I'll always do the Wednesday, Thursday packets. We'll alternate.
oh, you're going to do it that way? Great.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we'll alternate. Like if you're doing the vocab, you'll do the bi-weekly, so that no one has more on the burden.
Okay.
So like we'll all be doing the same.
Okay. As long as it's clear to me when you submit your plans and you say, you know, you can share the link of his. In other words, so I know it's all there.
Yeah.
That's what I care about. As long as everybody's doing what they need to be doing, and if there are any challenges, just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're going to look at which lesson are we looking at for you? We're looking at lesson 2. Okay.
I had a few questions.
Yes. Okay, let's start with your questions.
Okay.
I'm going to, hold on 1 second. I just want to open that file real quick. And this is in Fahrenheit, lesson 2. This is the fun they had?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. So here, AIR stands for annotated independent reading, right?
Yes.
So when it says AIR, that means that they're doing all of this reading independently, annotating for the discussion prompt that I told them that the prompt.
Exactly.
Cool. I wasn't clear or not whether I'm reading with them, because I know sometimes in the lesson plan it says teacher, but I guess that makes sense because in the lesson plan it says teacher read aloud.
Yeah. And sometimes they give you the choice.
Okay.
And then you have to use
I
your
just wanna
judgment.
figure- So okay, yeah. So I said that for like my 2 classes for sure, Grambling and Hampton. I'll definitely be able to do it independently, but I think for this first one that it would help Caldwell. Those are the kids that have my IEPs. If I just do one with them, and then they'll do the rest on their own. So the heavy lifting loop 1,
Yeah.
if I like read aloud those first 4.
So here's what we want to do, right? As much as possible, I want to try this with
Okay.
Caldwell before you start lowering the bar for them. And again, this is, you got your launch, and then you're going to go into time and text. So it's only 4 paragraphs. It's not like the whole story. So we want to give them that productive struggle time.
Okay.
And see what they can do. We're still going to discuss it.
Yeah.
Right? But if we don't give them the productive struggle time, they don't get the benefit of that.
Okay.
And then they don't actually get to climb the ladder. Everybody else is climbing the ladder.
Okay.
So I want to try to be as faithful to this as possible.
All right.
This is a perfect example of what we call the time and text move. So you're going to go from your launch, right, where you talk about yesterday we, today we will, and then the why. And in a second, I want to ask you what your launch is going to be in terms of how, especially how you're going to frame the why. And we'll talk about the workshop again, just to make sure you got that all figured out. The time and text piece is where you're establishing here's where we're going to read from where to where, and this is what we're annotating for, and you have this amount of time, and I'm setting the timer. And so they're all boom. And then what do you do? Do you know what to do when they're doing that?
Well, while they're annotating, I'm going around to check their annotation. And like, I'm also like making notes about like what some of the students are saying.
Yeah.
And then so that when it's time for the discussion, like
Yes.
I know who I can call on.
Yes.
When I'm asking, okay, so what did you find? Where's your evidence?
Yep.
And looking at that.
Or saying, you know, Javon, I noticed you had some interesting notes for paragraph 2. Can you share that out? Kind of thing, so that you're, you know, sort of pre-vetting and they know it's okay, especially early in the year. Students need to know, like, am I on the right page or not? That's a good way to kind of frame things. The other thing you want to note, though, is if kids look like they're struggling, particularly, make notes to self about that. So I see you have your clipboard. Do you have a class list on here somewhere?
I don't have it on, not on this one, but I do have a class list.
Okay, so that's what I would do is have the
Like a
class
blank,
list.
and then like have a blank
and then you could jot little notes next to their name, and that's another good way to collect data points. I just have to write it down myself.
Yeah, I need to start bringing a notebook.
Alright, so we're still doing major 10.
Okay, so what are your key things that you're jotting down here so I make sure I capture the same stuff?
Creating a document to aggressively monitor students during air.
So I like to say actively monitor.
Active, sorry, yeah, active.
Because I feel like that term is too
Aggressive
hostile.
aggressive.
All right, so your active monitoring chart. Okay, and you're definitely going to give them that AIR time and set up the time and text. And probably tomorrow, I'm going to send you another maybe 8-minute workshop. It might even be less than 8 minutes on time and text, so you can see like what that should look like proficiently versus what it looks like if it's not proficient. So you can see the difference. Okay. Eventually, we're going to start to have, you know, in-house models, but I want to show you some right off out of the gate. Okay. So stay tuned for that little TV show. Did you, before we talk about this, so did you get a chance to look at the launch? I don't think we talked about that workshop yesterday, right? Okay. So how many minutes did he spend?
I literally wrote the questions.
On the dirt quiz.
Dirt quiz, 2 minutes.
Okay, great. And then what did he do while they were taking the dirt quiz?
He was walking around taking notes based off of what he like.
What do you think he was looking for?
And like because when they went over the dirt quiz, he immediately cold called the student.
Yes. So this is sort of relates to the next question that I was asking, which is how do you strategically monitor when they're doing the dirt quiz so that when you go over the dirt quiz, you go over what you should go over and don't waste time on stuff you don't need to go over, right? Because if you have 3 questions, you don't have to go over all 3 questions. Basically, you want to target a question that either is going to springboard you into the discussion or it's something people got confused about and you need to help clarify.
Okay.
If you're walking around and everybody's getting everything wrong, that's a sign that people didn't do the homework, in which case you need to like press pause and have like come to, you know, whatever conversation about the way we operate here is we do our homework and we come prepared to class, because if we don't, you're not going to learn as much and you won't be on that path to college, right? And they'll get a 0 on the quizzes day after day after day. If you notice specific people not coming prepared, make those phone calls home right away. So we have to set the habit early. If we don't, you're just going to be trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, like forever, and getting frustrated. So that's important. Okay, good. I'm trying to think what else we wanted to ask in there. Do you have those questions?
Yeah, I have to get them up.
So when he goes over it, he calls on one student. Oh, and then they're unpacking the prompt. How did they unpack the prompt? Do you remember what he asked them to do?
I said, I don't know if this has to do with the prompt.
Yeah.
But I know they had a minute to unpack it.
independently.
Yes. He
Yes.
didn't tell them how to unpack the
Correct.
prompt, which is something I wrote. I was like,
Yeah. So keep in mind
but
that,
our kids don't know.
well, so far they haven't done it. So this is the lesson that you saw.
Yeah, it was like, wait, I
End
was
of the
like,
book.
yeah.
Okay, so they've been trained in how to do this. They have a lot of
Okay.
experience with doing
This
it.
one-
So you're going to get to the point where you're like unpack the prompt independently. Hopefully, like probably 4 or 5 lessons in, they'll be able to like
Do it on their own.
be doing it on their own. You still need to check for understanding though, right? And that's what he was doing, calling on somebody to give
Yeah,
that.
someone else.
Right? Do you remember how he said, how he responded to this student? I think it was like Alex or somebody. He didn't repeat.
That's what I wrote. Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't he just kept like
He said, that's right, we're doing what Alex just said. So instead of repeating what Alex said, which would have trained everybody to not listen to each other, just listen to me because I'm going to be the repeater of everything, he said, yep, that's what we're going to do. So if you weren't listening to Alex when he said it, you're like, wait, what? So he's normed that we all have to listen to one another.
Okay.
So that's a good tip for you. I haven't been in your room often enough to see if you're doing that routinely. I think that's a good thing to do, to train them to listen by not repeating what students say.
Okay.
If you find yourself repeating, turn off your air conditioner because honestly, in most rooms when people are repeating, I think it's because you realize people can't hear, and it's a terrible habit to fall into that you're repeating. Not that you are, but I'm just saying when one repeats, because it tells everybody don't listen to your peers, just listen to me.
That makes sense.
It takes twice as long to do everything too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to try to be on the watch for that.
Okay.
Okay, and so they went over the prompt, broke it down, and so why did we get, on a scale of 4 being advanced proficient, why do you think he got a 3? Did you look at the rubric?
Yeah, I had the rubric up, but
Okay, so let's talk about what's in the through line in your launch.
Do you agree with that?
What are the like the 3 things we want to be sure to include in our through line?
and arts for
In
mine.
ours. Yeah, always.
Oh, every time,
Yeah, when you do your through line.
which is the Yesterday we did this.
Yep.
Today we are going to be doing this,
Yep.
and why we're doing it.
Yes.
So he didn't do the why.
Boom.
That makes sense. Because he did talk about, I remember he talked about the yesterday, and he said, I remember his today. But I was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought, he didn't do the why. So we have to find the why.
Yes.
And let kids know the why.
Yes.
So they understand.
So, yep. So I'm gonna ask you to give us your launch.
I need to go downstairs and get some.
Yeah, I'll give you a second to like in your head rehearse it, and then I want you to do your launch. Okay. I want to hear those 3
The why.
things. All right, you ready?
No.
You can write it down if you haven't written it down. Okay. Take a minute, collect your thoughts. This is why we're here.
Use your pencil and you can write it. I want you guys to have these answers and you can look back. Okay, let's use that paper. Pencil on paper now, okay? Let's take a break from the whiteboard. I want you to look at the paper so you can bring my draw paper. Draw in the box of paper. Okay? You can use 36 minus 8 as well.
So, Ms. Mears, we're looking at Fahrenheit lesson 2. I don't know if you knew that, but that's what we're looking at. So in her pacing calendar, that should be highlighted so that we remember that's what we're going to, yeah, it is. That's the one we're gonna IPP. And next week it's gonna be lesson 6, if you wanna get a jump on that. It's always gonna be the Wednesday lesson that we're doing on Thursdays, we'll IPP for next Wednesdays. also want to look at lesson 1 to see what they did first. And so in lesson 1, remind us, because you're going to talk about lesson 1. So all right, I'll let you just do your launch because you should be reminding us of what we did in lesson 1. So, okay, you ready? Okay, go ahead.
So, it's okay for me. I won't do this
Yeah,
today.
it's
but
fine. No, do we need use your script? It's okay. We're
So
practicing.
yesterday we discussed what is speculative fiction, and we discussed the intro of our class now with Fahrenheit 451. Today we're going to reread your homework from last night, the fun they had, in order to see what speculative fiction looks like in action. This text was written in 1951, which is 2 years before Fahrenheit 451 was actually written, but it deals with some of the exact same themes. And this text, how do you say his name?
Is it Asimov?
Asimov?
Isaac Asimov.
Isaac
One of
Asimov.
my favorite writers.
Was writing in response to the rise of technology. This will help us understand what are some of the possible dangers and what happens to a society if we become too reliant on technology. A lot of us love to use our phones. A lot of us still love to be on the computer and we don't like to go outside, hang out with people, hang out with our friends. And in this text, we're going to see what could possibly happen if we become too reliant on technology. You guys ready?
Boom. I like it. So let me tell you what I like about it. I like that you got the yesterday. If anybody was absent, first of all, they're like, oh, okay, that's what they did yesterday. But also, you're just priming the pump. Today, you clarified what we're going to do. Thank you for asking how to pronounce his name. It's always good to make sure you can pronounce authors' names. So
Absolutely.
So Neil Gaiman is the guy who wrote the intro. Neil Gaiman wrote the intro to this edition of Fahrenheit. And I think there's a few different ways you can talk about the why, right?
Okay.
So the one you just delivered I thought was effective, and what was effective about it was connecting students to something that they already have strong feelings about, and so they can see a connection between speculative fiction and some issues that they're dealing with now, right? So I think the way you articulated that, like, yeah, you might have some issues around technology, and this is a bit of a cautionary note.
Yeah.
You want to be careful you don't give too much away.
Okay.
About like what the whole thing was about. So just tread lightly on that. You don't want to say like this whole story is
okay.
blah blah blah, because then people who didn't read it are like, I don't have to read it. You just tell me what the whole plot is.
Okay, cool.
So that's one thing. Another angle you can take, and it's not the only one, so again, you have options, is to think about the broader why of why we're looking at speculative fiction broadly, right? So you can connect it to the importance of speculative fiction in terms of the field of writing, like why that's an important genre for people. And maybe even in this day and age, like why do we need to read speculative fiction? Because there's a lot of stuff going on that maybe we should be questioning, and maybe you want to write your own speculative fiction. So I think getting students to think both as a reader and as a potential writer, how this genre is valuable to them is important, so that they get as connected to it as possible. And then, of course, like, we're moving into Fahrenheit, which is absolutely speculative fiction. So we're doing some like mini examples of it, and then we're getting into the bigger novel that illustrates it in much greater detail. The other thing I would say is, another thing that's important here is Isaac Asimov was a best-selling writer who wrote literally dozens of books and hundreds of short stories, and he's really super famous. So if you like this story, there is a whole motherlode of Isaac Asimov literature that you can dig into. His memoir was also really good. I was a huge Asimov fan growing up. I actually got to see him speak one time, which was amazing. So like when we're, think about it, like we're looking for dear options. If anybody says, hey, yeah, this is really cool, can we get some books? Like, put that on your to-do list of ordering some Isaac Asimov or some more science fiction, and say we're going to boost that part of our library. So we keep, connecting the dots amongst other parts of our day, right? English connects to deer, connects to the wider world. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach the why. I think what you did was totally fine.
Okay.
But just, as you have to do a why every day, like there's a lot more to mix in there.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. This Muhammad starts in 10 minutes, so let's just keep it moving here. That was great. You said you had some questions about other things in here?
It was mostly like if I should read aloud. Because I was just confused about the air. And then
just to clarify, Miss Mears, you walked in after we had this conversation.
Okay.
Miss HD asked, with Caldwell, because they're a little bit more struggling, is it okay if she reads out loud to them first? And I said I would really rather that we use the plan as it is, because getting them to read independently and getting them used to that is really critical. It says independent read, it doesn't say choose independent read or read aloud. In cases where it says choose, then if you feel the need to make that choice, you absolutely should. But we're only talking about the first 4 paragraphs, so it's not a lot. And they read it for homework, if they did. The other thing is, if you're thinking about potential modifications, before you assign it for homework, preview it for vocabulary. And if you need to add a few just extra, footnotes about vocabulary words, put those at the bottom of the text before you hand it out.
Yeah.
Okay? So maybe make a note to self on that, because that's coming up next week, and you can still add those notes before you make the copies.
And the thing me and Miss Aneva did, and Miss Aneva, we the vocabulary for the words for the vocabulary are actually a week ahead.
Good.
So
they're learning them, and then they
learn speculate this week, so that when they see speculative fiction, they'll be like, wait, we know speculate.
Boom.
So if we,
drop the mic. All right.
Oh, and then the key ideas.
Yes.
The S equals that. I'm assuming a setting. That would make sense.
1 second. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because their prompt is, how is the setting, the fun they have, different from the world of the
Yes, exactly. Sorry. That reminds me of another thing. I don't know if you shared this particular plan with me yesterday as a, hey, heads up, we're doing this. In other words, I don't know if you, I think I said this yesterday, but maybe I didn't. So every week, if you could just send me an email that says, here's this plan, like just share the plan with me that we're going to IPP.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The reason for that is, let me tell you why. Because I can dig into everybody's
that makes way more sense.
pacing calendars and everything, but if you are like making changes and I'm at the other school, I'm going to plan for something, and then if you changed it, I'm like, but I'm ready for this other plan.
Yes.
So if you consciously say to me, hey,
lesson 2.
This is the one we're definitely going to talk about. And also, it could be that you don't want to talk about the Wednesday plan, but you actually want to talk about the Thursday plan for whatever reason. And that's totally fine.
Okay.
So as you're looking through your plans and you're like, yeah, I want to rehearse this launch instead of that one, send me whichever one you want.
Okay.
And Miss Mears.
Okay.
So that we can both come fully prepared.
Okay.
So I was a little bit like, I think she wants number 2, but I wasn't totally sure. Okay.
2 is it.
All right. So you made a note of that, so you remember to do that, because I'm probably not going to remember to remind you again. Okay, cool. All right. Any major misconceptions that you're anticipating as you go through the lesson?
So I want to know how I can. So okay, this first discussion prompt is, how is the setting of the fun they had different from the world of the reader? And I don't know if that might, like, I know that they know that they're the readers, but I don't know if they'll make that connection as clear as it needs, because here it says that to them technology, it says books are no longer used, technology stores all the information that books want.
Yep.
I don't want them to get confused, because there are there's technologies that we actually do have now that kind of do certain, like an ebook, right, for example.
Yeah.
Or they can use their computers and stuff to read like that, and I don't want them to think that is the same as what this. There are no books. In this world, there are literally no more books. physically reading together right now. Like, this wouldn't happen in this text. And I want them to like be able to understand that and not say, well, I mean, it's not that different from our world because we also have computers. We also use technology.
So what if that happens? Like, what if they fall into that trap? That's actually could be a teachable moment, right? So you have two different ways you could play this, at least, right? One is when you're giving them the prompt, let's clarify what we mean by reader, so that they don't fall into that trap. All right.
Okay.
That would be one way to do it. Like when they say reader, who are they talking about? Maybe that will. Because then I think the other piece is, as you said, they still might understand that part and may still misinterpret what's being portrayed. And that's a different conversation. So I would just get them to get some clarity around the prompt. Because there's no reason for them to be confused about the prompt. Like, you can ask somebody, I mean, like I would say to students, you know, when they say between the world of the reader, who do you think they're referring to? And I would do this, I would say, whisper to your neighbor. Who do you think they're referring to? So that everybody fully engages in that, and you don't just call on the one hand who says, I think blah, 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 but just like whisper to your neighbor. Did we talk about this in the engagement workshop? Like if you do whisper to your neighbor, they go like, and it gets more like, it's got a little bit more like,
they're like, ooh.
Excitement about it. Okay. All right, Ms. Muhammad will be with you in 2 seconds.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Okay, great. Okay, so 3 minutes.
Okay.
So that's a good, like, quick turn and talk. You don't have to do a minute turn and talk. It could just be like, what do you think reader means? Like, whisper to your neighbor. Okay. 20 seconds, go. And then, do you have your index cards yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so by the end of today, or let's say by the end of this week.
Yeah. I was gonna make them on Fridays because I have so much food.
Okay, great.
Not so much, but
So when I come in next week, I want to see those cards being used routinely. And not like, oh, I'm now going to take them out. Like, they should be in your pocket. They should be handy, like, throughout the whole lesson, because they're, you know, you're going to pick your spots when you're going to be using cold calling, and it shouldn't be like this, I drop everything, now I'm going to cold call. It should just be like part of your flow. Okay?
Okay.
Any other potential misconceptions that you noticed? What's the exit ticket?
This exit ticket is because the whole time they're discussing the prompt. How was the story? The fun they had, an example of speculative fiction, and that's the exit ticket question. And so they have to write a short response, a paragraph that answers that question.
Yeah.
Would you provide them like the rubric for the exit ticket?
It's not in the packet. So I should put
Yeah,
it
so
at the
you
bottom.
can, so see where it says CFS here? Criteria for success?
Yeah, it says, yeah.
Okay, that's essentially, that becomes your rubric. They call this.
So this.
So this is
actual
the,
thing.
these are the 2 points. Is it accurate and valid?
Okay.
Okay? And you can just put those things
At the
in
bottom.
and make them, you know, did you do this, did you do that? It's actually, so one thing I want to check with them on, it says clearly answers the question, and then it says accurate and valid. To me, like those are, it's an umbrella. Clearly answers the question is the umbrella over accurate and valid.
Because yeah.
Right? Because how could you be accurate and valid and not clearly answer the question? Like, it seems to me those are, so I think that just the way they lay this out on the page makes it look like 3 things, but it's really 2
They
things
have
under
2
that.
pieces of evidence, and it's explained and connected to the claim.
Yeah. And then just, you know, like we always want to show them that like this is what we're looking for here, because then they can self-check on that. And then we could potentially do a writing lesson around this. We'll, like I said, next week on Wednesday, we'll look at student work for sure.
Yep.
The only thing I don't like about this question and the exemplar that they give is we're trying to train students to answer how questions with by, whatever, whatever, and they answered how with because. So I'm like, what I would suggest that you do is instead of sharing their exemplar, maybe tweak this and, you know, the next day, if you want to compare their writing to an exemplar, just tweak it a little so that the how question doesn't start with because.
Okay.
Doesn't start with because. Do you know what I mean by that?
So that you said the how shouldn't start with the because.
The how, when you answer a how question, you should answer it with by
By.
whatever, and a why
Why
question
question is the
answers with because.
And they do a because
And-
for this how question.
Yeah.
It should be a why. I mean, not a why.
So what I would say is,
Why.
the fun they had,
Is an example of speculative fiction. It's of speculative fiction.
shows an example of speculative fiction by
Warning readers
about,
about the dangers of technology.
okay? Note to self, and then we kind of, just to be consistent about how we're talking with
That makes
students
sense.
about why and how questions, especially because in the next set of packets, I'm putting in a review on the 5 W's and H, and how and why. And when I was walking around looking at tutorial the other day, I noticed students were struggling with turning the titles into how and why questions. So I'm going to give them a little bit of review on that in the tutorial packets in all grades 5 through 8. Next, not this coming week, but the week after.
Okay.
So you'll see that coming down the pike. All right. Any last thoughts?
No, this was helpful.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.